Hello everyone, this is Judith with another video. Today we're looking at what happens when you meet your twin flame and you are still in another relationship. Maybe you are married, maybe you're married even with children, or you're just in another committed relationship. What is happening there, and what should you do, right? That's very often the question. And especially if you are with a soulmate. So if you are with a karmic partner and you meet your twin flame, this is very easy often, because things will fall apart, and you would most likely leave your partner, or maybe not even leave the partner, but this relationship will just fall apart. Both partners will agree that this is not working anymore, right? And then you will step out into your single life, your twin flame journey, right? It's not a single life, because you have your divine partner then, but very often you're not with your divine partner. Sometimes some twin flames, they experience a little bit of a committed relationship with a twin before things start to get difficult, and then they separate, usually. That's what usually happens, because we have to learn how to master that, how to handle that, and we have to learn what is the essence and the nature of this twin flame relationship, right, in order to experience that in the 3D. And so if you are with a soulmate, things are a little bit different. Often a soulmate is then sometimes also helping, can be very helpful, can be very supportive in on the twin flame journey. But of course, we are like, well, there are all kinds of different constellations happening on the twin flame journey, right? So it's also possible that you stay in a committed relationship for a certain time, and then you decide to break up with this person. So nothing is wrong or right when it comes to this path. But it's, of course, you cannot have any other soul contracts going on. But sometimes those relationships are soul contracts, right? They are like designed. No, what I said is bullshit. You have soul contracts going on, right? And those other soul contracts, they are like helping you to resolve certain issues, to learn things along the path, right? So sometimes this person who helps you to learn something is your partner, your soulmate. Sometimes also the karmic partner, but usually, as I said, this comes before the twin flame journey. That's usually it's those lessons are already learned, right? And for our divine counterparts, it's a little bit different. They are very often with a karmic person and decide to stay with that karmic person. And sometimes they are, of course, also in a soulmate relationship. So it's as it shows up in different ways, but it's always designed to mirror you exactly the lessons you need to learn. And what is mirrored is basically its feelings, specific feelings, right? They need to come up again, and they need to be looked at. That's usually what happens. And all kinds of things, of course, can go wrong when you meet your twin flame. So talking about fidelity or infidelity, of course, well, first of all, of course, it is necessary to be to separate from previous partners. But I'm coming to the fidelity and infidelity part in a minute. But we also have to keep in mind that we could, for example, separate. We could go through a divorce or whatever, or a separation with our karmic partner or married, our husband, wife. But even after we have left them, or we are like still we have not detached from them, right? There's still attachments, and there is still like we are still like on some level committed to this person. So this also happens. So what really needs to take place is an energetic separation, right? And you cannot play it safe with a twin flame. You cannot say, okay, I'm gonna wait till my twin flame is ready, and then I'm gonna split up, leave that other person, and whoop, I'm with my twin flame. That's not the way it is, because it's two different, completely different kinds of relationships. The first relationship is a 3D relationship, right? Two people that fall in love, they agree to be together, to design their lives together, to make plans together, or to have maybe children together. That's not the case with twin flames. With twin flames, it's just that they can also commit, and it's a regular relationship, right? But if you have any unresolved things going on, your twin flame cannot stay in your presence, and the other way around. You would just run for the hills because it's too intense. And yeah, and this alone is already enough, right? The intensity, and that's why all kinds of 3D things come into the mix. It starts like with, what am I going to do if I'm single? If I'm a single mom, then how would this look like? But usually what happens along the twin flame journey is that you are not so much in your head, right? But that you are more making decisions that come from your higher self. So basically, the higher self, especially in the beginning, takes over, and then certain things are just orchestrated from the universe. So, for example, like in my case, it was just I left my relationship. I then was a single mom. A job fell down from the sky, designed for me perfectly. And this job, interestingly, was also something that took me away from other men. I was working where I was only or almost only in contact with women. So I had no chance really to meet someone else. I was like in a sanctuary with only women. But that's my personal story. Of course, this does not need to look like that, but I found it quite funny, right? That I was kind of protected and then had to focus on myself. Yeah, and so there's nothing really wrong, but of course, sooner or later, you will decide to be free for this twin flame relationship or not, right? You have free will, so you can do what you want. But usually, when you start the journey, then usually you stay committed. There is a time where a lot of twin flames leave the journey, where they quit, but that's something else. That's a whole other topic. Yeah, and when you in this phase, right, when you make new decisions for your life, or you're guided to take certain steps, then it's of course important that you let your higher self lead the way. And what is so tricky is sometimes that there are other people in the mix. They are like giving recommendations, and they have their own agenda, right? What you should do. and they have concerns, and then sometimes the ego kicks in, and because you in the beginning usually you cannot make the distinction between what comes from your higher self and what comes from your ego. So this is something that you learn along the way, and then you would more and more like follow your higher self, your divine guidance, and you would recognize what comes from the ego, and you would like cancel that immediately, right? And yeah, in this first phase, it can be also very tricky to it's, how should I say that, it's infidelity is always backfiring in a way. But it's also an issue that needs to be looked at, because sometimes there is like, you have maybe a story of infidelity with your twin flame in past lives, right? Or it's part of a trauma. It's part of your trauma, maybe, that without even noticing it, you hold like you are like settling for less than your true worth, right, in life. And so this could be mirrored, for example, by your twin flame. But yeah, it's not wrong, right? It's not a moral thing at all, and there will be no one like be punishing you for infidelity. But it, as everything, all our decisions have consequences, right? So we are of course then in every moment free to make a new decision. So for example, if you met your twin flame and you were still in a marriage, or then you cheated on your husband, and you were with your twin flame, it's not to me, it's not a question of moral. You could look at it like this, but it's sometimes it happens, right? But of course, you need to come from a place of love and of self-worth, and you need to have integrity on this journey, and that those are things that you learn. And if it happens, then I'm sure that there comes a point where you make a new decision, where you say, I want to come from a place of integrity. I want to come from a place of love. I do not want to treat other people and any. It's very, very interesting. In the beginning of the journey, it's our twin flame on the pedestal, right? But then when we ascend, when we do the inner work, and our light is growing, we basically see that everyone deserves to be treated in a good way. This doesn't mean that we need to be friends with everyone, but really it's not so exclusively for our twin flame. And then we open up to create our relationships in a more loving way, right? We try at least, right? Yeah, and so if we would have the chance to repeat certain things, for example, we would then not have cheated on our partner. And that's basically that's basically it, right? There's, you make mistakes, but that's how it is, right? And then you make a new choice. And you can also like ask for forgiveness. You don't have to ask, for example, your partner directly for forgiveness, but you can do this in your mind. You can just ask his soul for forgiveness. This is doing a lot. Maybe you know this exercise, and if not, you can look it up online, Ho'oponopono. And that's, for example, something you can do it towards yourself, then towards the other guy, and you can like be uh, the other guy and do it towards you. And that's a very, very powerful exercise if you want um, to ask for forgiveness or to be forgiven. Yeah. So maybe that's a fit for you. Yeah. So infidelity can cause problems because one aspect is also when we think of your divine counterpart, that this intense energy, this intense chemistry that is happening between twin flames in this honeymoon phase, right? It's starting like a volcano, and then if one of the twins is taking this energy outside of the connection, then this is of course like very damaging. And this is also happening. So it's also better, of course, if this energy stays with between the two twin flames. And in this sense, you can also be you can also cheat on your twin flame, even if you are not in a committed relationship. But it feels like cheating, being cheated on, or I don't know if it feels like cheating, but it feels like being cheated on, right? and and yeah, that's always doing damage to take that energy outside of the connection. It's really something sacred, and it wants to be treated sacred, right? And so the feeling is right that we need to be true, um, uh, but it's not about moral aspects so much, right? It is about moral, but I think you get what I mean. Yeah, what else is there to say? Yeah, when there are children in the mix, right? That's also an aspect. When you are married and you have children in the mix, then uh, always those children, they already know what they are dealing with. They are like really big souls usually, and they would very often support you in this choice, to be with your twin flame or to be on the twin flame path. And they would somehow understand it and not question it, and contribute to that in their particular way. So they might. It depends, of course, on how old the children are, and this is also something to ponder. If you have small children, then this is a 3D life, right? As well, we also have to deal with our 3D things along the way. And in my perspective, that's maybe not for everyone, but in my perspective, when we have smaller children, then they should like have their needs should be the priority, right? That's what I think. And if we have like maybe older children that we can already explain things, it might be appropriate, right, to agree on leaving a marriage. Of course, this is always an agreement also between two people, right? Very often those marriages are already at an end at some point, right? So things on the twin flame journey, if they go the way that it is designed, it's very often, or in my perspective, always, it is a win, 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 win for everyone. Of course, this is life. It's still life, and some things are maybe hurtful, but in the end, it's really it shouldn't be like hurtful or painful for anyone. If this is the case, then you might maybe deal with a narcissist or with a really someone whose brain is damaged, right? Um, but usually it's like that things are falling into place. For example, you separate and your partner finds another partner and maybe even has another family and is happy, right? So those things, yeah, they fall into place most in, as I have seen it, they fall into place in a really good way, right? And very often, um, if we don't allow those things to fall apart, then we are also in the way for the other person to find maybe their twin flame, right? Or their soulmate. Uh, so that's also important. It's not, we don't know what is best for this other person. Sometimes we think, oh, I have to stay in this relationship because that's good for my partner, but maybe it's not good for the other guy, right? Maybe that's not very helpful. Yeah, so those children usually they know what they've signed up for, and they can handle those things. And very often that's the younger generation, right? Many of them, they are together with a twin flame, yeah, or with a soulmate, right? Because they don't carry those wounds, uh, and uh, and they align much more easily with someone, with a soul family member, right? Soulmate or twin flame. And if they have the teachings then and the knowledge, then they can do the work easily and effortlessly because they are young and all the issues have not built and built on top, you know. You're older, it might be a little bit, it might take a little bit longer. Very often it is that way. Of course, it never needs to be that way. We should not think that it takes long, right? In the end, it is about enjoying the journey and knowing that everything that we go through in this life, everything really, not only the relationships, uh, it's always a journey. It's never about like things coming to an end. It's always about being on the journey, right? And even if you are together with your twin flame, the journey will not stop. Yeah. So one last thing before we wind down here is that if you want children with your twin flame, then that can be sometimes very, very tricky because this is a different type of relationship, and it's really like your mirror, and it very much mirrors the degree of love that you have for yourself, right? And it requires then to do the inner work and to really do the healing and everything like that, and that takes dedication and effort, and is very different from, yeah, how should I say it? It's not so much like the focus is not so much on the 3D, right? And if you want children as a woman, then there's also a clock that is ticking, right? And you cannot calculate the time that you need to be in union with your twin flame. Maybe even it's not this lifetime, right? You don't know that. Um, but but if you want children, if this is a priority in your life, then you should prioritize this and then see who is like matching you with this desire, and not like wanting your twin flame, and then because you want children with your twin flame. Maybe this is working out, right? That's there are twin flames who have a child together, or maybe more than one child. I haven't seen more than one child, but it will come probably. um, and and yeah, that's all on the way, so that's all possible, right? But yeah, but this can be very tricky, right? It's always yeah, it's that's what my teachers said. I maybe I don't do not have a very strong opinion in relation to this, but I trust what my teachers told us in this regards, that it's very very uh, the turbulences, the things that are stirred up when you combine both desires on one hand, like wanting to be with your twin flame and taking that journey, and also wanting a child. So this is like, um, yeah, it's maybe it even works out, and then it's all of a sudden you are not healed and you do not manage to maintain that relationship. And then when those kind of relationships, when you have a separation there, and this is causing so much inner stress and so much, yeah, it's bringing up all the very deep issues, right? That's just sometimes very very um, unhealthy for a child, right? So if you want to have a child in the mix, then the relationship should be healed to some degree. Yeah, so that's all for today. And yeah, as always, if you want to work with me, send me an email. I also offer like reduced prices for the introductory session, and you could choose to click on the link below in the description box. I have created a free webinar for you. If you're interested, then go and get this one. Yeah, and stay tuned for more. Bye for now.